Hello. I just wanted to expand upon my thoughts from a couple of days ago, where I made a video about entrepreneurial hubs. In particular, I've been interested in the Western New York region for the reasons I cited. I think there's tremendous opportunity for growth in the Niagara slash Western New York region. Um, but then I started thinking about this a little bit more, and like I'm thinking like of a couple of angles here with regards to like the energy markets. The move to sustainable energy seems to be it's going to be like happening sooner than we expected. So I think Ramesh Nam, I think that's how you say his name, has been one of the um, kind of he's like an unofficial kind of analyst for the um, I guess you could kind of like he's a futurist, like he's former Microsoft. Then went on to write a couple of books. I haven't read his books, and um, he's got like I think he may be onto something with regards to how he is, for lack of a better word, extrapolating what could happen to the energy mix. And my sense is that we're going to have cleaner sources of energy, and the transition is going to happen much sooner than we expect. So now, when I say clean, I mean solar, wind, maybe geothermal. I don't know much about geothermal. Mostly solar and wind. So, and mostly solar in that category. But we could also see like breakthroughs in other domains. I wouldn't want to like expand too much on this subject, but like my sense is that the transition to cleaner sources of energy is going to happen faster than we expect. So there's like tons of opportunity here from the perspective of not just good, well-paying quality jobs that are going to be enabled all over the world as this transition happens, because you're going to need, in random order, people to install the equipment, people to manage the networks that are going to emerge as a result of like taking care of the grid itself. So you're going to need grid engineers, like a whole series of other jobs, not necessarily just in engineering and science, or mostly engineering in this discipline. You're going to need like business development folks in HR, the usual set of roles and responsibilities that occur when you have a medium to large size organization. Only that that's going to happen in a distributed format. So I can see this powering a lot of growth, but there's also this other dimension whereby now we have cleaner sources of energy. So how will that shift the dynamics, and as it relates to supply chain? It's a larger question of economics. I think what needs to happen there is, though, like as a species, one of the things we've been doing is converting a lot of the nature into wealth, which to me doesn't sound like a very sustainable strategy. So it's something I've spoken about in the past in my comments on Quora, elsewhere, maybe some of the videos I may have made. So there's going to be this wider question with regards to like actually saving the ecology and powering growth in a sustainable fashion. But I personally don't see a reason why a lot of the dreams that have a lot of the dreams in the past cannot happen when it comes to things like vertical farms, new age infrastructure, newer ways of moving goods and people, even, which would fall under, I guess, the category of infrastructure with like transportation and whatnot, as well as opening up the frontier, which is going to power a lot of the growth now and in the future. I mean, the frontier of space. And there's this question mark with regards to automation and how the workforce will change. My take on this subject is that I think a lot of the mundane jobs are going to get automated. the more redundant what's the word? The more repetitive the series of tasks that are performed, the higher the likelihood that that job category is going to get automated. And there's a number of jobs in the service industry with like front desk, or in the fast food industry is like a huge, a lot of folks get but it's not just related to those two domains. There's a lot of other areas where the work is fairly, it's a series of repetitive steps, which can easily be, well, not easily, like I don't foresee, and I'm coming at from a very uneducated perspective, but I don't foresee a lot of, I don't see a lot of problems with regards to, let me close my email, it's gonna keep making that noise. With regards to like actually something that stands in the way of, my take on this is that for me, it makes sense to be involved in the local corridor, because I don't have like any plans of moving to, the Bay Area or somewhere else, unless a tremendous opportunity comes my way. So I have to like think of the logistics, being a father, and obviously with me work like, but that's a different conversation. But what I was thinking though was this need not happen in the entrepreneurial hubs need not happen in like only specific parts of the world, because there's going to be like this era of radical abundance, and we're going to have like so much energy. I think if I was going to turn this into calculus or some kind of equation, it really comes down to safeguarding the ecology and taking the right steps in order to be able to mitigate some of the harmful effects that have happened as a result of just like ongoing evolution of civilization, because there's always a cause and effect, and we are seeing some harmful effects of just with the parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, as well as the precarious state of the global oceans, with like a lot of acid building up, like ocean acidity, to the future of coral reefs, to trash in general, to in random order, to like industrial waste in an unregulated environment, and the sewage and raw sewage and whatnot that is going into the oceans and causing dead zones. But there's like a whole complex series of problems with so climate change, state of the oceans. These are potentially civilization disrupting events. So I'm not gonna explore the I don't know what I would want to understand where the opposition to a lot of these things come from. But if it just seems like if somebody could argue on the math side of things or the statistics, but if somebody's actually wrong about this, then the implications are huge. Like we're talking about civilization disrupting consequences, and this is not like some far out future, like 500 years, 1,000 years in the future. We don't know. This is arguable if it's already happening in places like Northern Africa and all over, really, like with the fires in California. Seems to be like a recurring event, to like the Great Barrier Reef, and there's a lot of pockets of the oceans dying near the coastal area. So oceans dying near coastal area mostly would be due to pollution, not necessarily climate change. But anyway, so yeah, if there is an impact, and it's on a somewhat of a, in the next couple of decades, maybe it's already here, then it doesn't seem like a good, it's like something you don't want to be wrong about. Let's put it that way. So yeah, really trying to understand not just how we're looking at the math, but where does and I don't know, when it comes to climate itself, I don't know what I'm talking about. because I'm not a climate scientist. I have no idea how to even look at the data set. I don't even know where to find this data in the first place. So I just try to go to websites like Climate Prospectus. Usually Climate Prospectus, I've spent a little bit of time on the site, not an exhaustive amount of time. But yeah, overall, this has been in our cognition, collective cognition, for not just like the past couple of decades, but actually it may be close to like 100 years now, because I believe there are articles going back to like the 1910s or 1920s, somewhere around that time, with regards to climate change. So yeah, it's like it's ringing more in our cognition recently because of the significance of the issue. But anyway, so to come back to the subject, what I was thinking was like the entrepreneurial hubs could actually be launched in many different parts of the world. And now this is not a novel idea, because I think, and I made this comment before, like I think entrepreneurship has truly gone global at this point in time. There are entrepreneurial clusters in virtually every single part of the world. Some are more developed than the others. So because I've gone through a program called Founders Institute, and the way Founders structures their network is that they have I'm not picking and choosing favorites, but this is just one of the many models. The Founders model is that they would plant a local chapter, and then have mentors come in and support local entrepreneurs within that region. And so they've been able to replicate this mechanism or model around the world. So you have chapters not just all over North America, all over Europe, Asia, Africa, every single continent on the world, maybe except the Arctic. And so Founders Institute has chapters in Karachi, in like I said, all over the other parts of the world. They even have like chapters in Kabul, Afghanistan. What else? Yeah, it's truly a global phenomenon, and not only are you part of the local entrepreneurial ecosystem, but you are also connected to the other chapters. So there's a lot of room for like cross collaboration between the different nodes, if you want to call it that. So yeah, there's like many different examples. The Start School is another model that's emerging. So started by Vicey, it's a truly, I think I categorize startupschool.org as a e-school, which is something has been spoken about in the entrepreneurial community. Mostly Steve Blank's kind of like spoken about this in the past, but it's only more recently that we're beginning to see like the emergence of something like a startup school. And that has a global appeal. There are entrepreneurs from all over the world that are active on Startup School. So there are companies that have a presence on Startup School from every single part of the world. Thousands, tens of thousands of folks join Startup School every single cohort, definitely on a 3 to 6 months capacity, and the numbers are probably increasing. So that's another model whereby a lot of folks are coming together. So like I have like a series of ideas around this arena. In my mind, it's kind of like an offshoot. I think as the transition to cleaner sources of energy happen, society is going to transform, and there's going to be a lot of systems that are going to transform. We're going to probably become more transparent as a species, and we're going to see many innovations in the domain of fintech overall, which is the huge area in the financial industry itself, and then fintech, which the way I understand is like more so actually fintech is a pretty broad term. So like there's innovation on a macro level, but also on a micro level, with respect to like how individuals would interact with a financial system. So a lot of things are changing in that arena. And yeah, I can see all these trends happening, and I could foresee a time in the not so distant future where people have like wallets on their computational device, where the identities are verified, and it's just like some of the problems that actually stand in the way of adopting. I hope my internet doesn't go down. It's been really flaky. I made a long video the other day, and the internet went down, and the live video was half of it was gone. Anyway, so yeah, maybe I should record it locally first. But so like yeah, I could see this time where there's like a fluid exchange of energy and like monetary transactions between individuals. Now, some of the problems that have been solved, I guess, in a traditional financial system with regards to terrorist financing to things like like bad things, the probability of like terrible things happening and a financial angle to that. These are problems that have been solved in the traditional banking / fiat currency domain. But I don't know, like I'm not a crypto guy, so like I don't like know tons about this. But I think like some of these challenges may still remain in the like this newer emerging reality that is like Bitcoin is what it's like. It seems like a very like interesting innovation too, and like the little I know about it, and the blockchain that powers this reality. Like so, like I kind of look at Bitcoin as say if you have vehicles operating on a road, then the blockchain is the road itself, and it's a very interesting model, and I could see it evolving in a very interesting set of ways. Already there's like so many other cryptocurrencies that have started, and like we also have the Ethereum network, which seems to be doing quite well. A lot of folks are building on top of that platform. It's not just the money itself, it's the platform and what you can build on top of that with smart contracts and whatnot. So I think there's going to evolve in a very interesting set of ways. But I don't want to go too deep into that. So I think coming back to the topic of entrepreneurial hubs, and I was looking at this project. It's called GeoShip. So I think the website is geoship.is. Let me just try that pretty quickly. Yeah, it is geoship.is. And I noticed this on a platform called Start Engine. So this is a crowdfunding platform, and GeoShip launched their campaign here. They were able to raise however much they were raising. Wow, they have some pretty awesome partners. Yeah, they were able to raise their ask, and I think they exceeded their ask. But so we're talking about like, so they've taken the Bucky structures to enable what they call regenerative architecture, and it's interesting because they were active on the startup school as well. One of the folks, it seems, from their team was active on the startup school front, and in the forums they were asking questions about what they were actually exploring was the investment angle. So how would that work if GeoShip as a project decided to take that route? So it's an interesting thought. They weren't just like thinking, oh, we're going to plant these, I don't know how they're going to be enabled, like 3D printed or whatnot. We're going to enable these structures, and entrepreneurs and like artists and like, I don't know what kind of audience they're looking to attract to these communities. But, it wasn't just like build it and they will come kind of methodology. It was like they were putting a fair bit of thought behind the financial incentive. How could this be potentially pitched as an investment? Who would invest? Like, how would the investors make money in the long run? The people actually living in there, how would they pay a rent? Would they live there for free? Like, what's really going to happen, or what are the outcome they're looking to get out of the city? So it was a pretty interesting set of ways of thinking about the project overall. So what I started thinking, and this idea really appeals to me for some reason. I don't know why. I've looked up Buckminster Fuller in the past. It was a very interesting fellow. It's really big on the design of things, and the way I understand it, looking at biology to be able to see like how we can replicate some of the biomimicry kind of designs to build what we're looking to build. I don't know much about Buckminster Fuller to be able to do justice, but GeoShip is using the Bucky structures. So these are, the way I understand it, called Bucky Domes. So you have like I think it's a hexagon, but you have like a series of hexagons attached together, and it's the arrangement. And when you put them in a dome kind of format, they become super resilient. Actually, I think to be wrong, but the bigger a Bucky structure gets, the more resilient it becomes, which may not be true for a lot of other physical structures that we may build using however series of designs we actually go about building. Like if you build a tall building, it's definitely not a Bucky structure. So if you build in a place like somewhere near like a fault line in Japan or something, you've got to put like a fair bit of engineering, like design behind something like that. So the thing actually is not, it actually sways with the tectonic activity as opposed to not being like anyway. So like without going to that debate too much, yeah. So it's not just the design of the building itself; it's what the project, what the project, what could be the potential outcome of a project like that. And what I was thinking was, what if you have like a geoship kind of a city or a like a community. I don't know what would be a good number. Probably could do a lot of examples. But what if you had a geoship development in different parts of the world, right? So you'd have these developments all over North America, South America, Africa, Europe. I'm just going to go all the continents. Asia, Australia. Did I miss a continent? Even the Antarctic. I don't know if you'd want to put up stuff up on the Arctic. I hope I haven't missed any continent. And Greenland's probably like somewhere in between Europe and North America. So, yeah, what if you planted these geoship kind of installations, and then you had like basic income provided to individuals who choose to live in these communities, and then what the city states are going to do, the cities, I don't know if this would come from a federal budget, but the cities could portion out parts of their budget to be able to support things on the law enforcement, paramedics, like healthcare facility kind of front, to be able to shoulder that part of the budget, which probably is not going to amount to too much. It depends on how big this actual community is. Plus, you also need like some means to be able to evacuate folks if some disaster happens. But yeah, like what if you planted this and then you had a basic income, and cities would portion part of their budget to basically have the necessary primary and secondary and ancillary support for these communities. And then what if there was some way to link all of these geographies with each other? So you could like have like a nerve center, and you could like have big screens there, and all of these different nodes would be connected to each other. And then what you could do is you could have like a DARPA kind of a model. So when the program managers work at DARPA, which stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is like a subunit of the U.S. Army. Program managers do not get tenure at a place like DARPA. So you are working there for a finite amount of time. Once that's done, you're pretty much done. So you either, I don't know what happens next, like you work on another project, or you're back to doing what you were doing before, or you transitioning to, depends on the individual, I guess. I don't know much about that, so I'm not going to comment on that. But you could have visiting not just scholars, but visiting entrepreneurs, visiting policymakers, visiting artists in residence. Everybody would be visiting, and nobody would really be like a permanent resident of these. I guess it's kind of like a nomadic structure. You could even like pack up and like move to like another location. It depends on how you structure these things. Depends on the materials you build it with as well. How you materialize, dematerialize it, like what kind of materials is it actually built with in terms of biodegradable materials and whatnot. But that's like an idea. And then what could happen is, because all these nodes are going to be linked, so the world's most chronic problems would then be routed through these nodes. And people are going to have reputation scores. I'm not a big fan of reputation scores on a nation state level because there's too many like variables where something like that could go wrong. And such a construct could be abused. And I haven't actually thought about this too much in terms of what I just said. So I don't know if reputation scores are a good thing, but contingent on like which set of teams / individuals have a better ability to be able to solve specific kind of problems, then it shouldn't be like a council or like a committee that is determines who is going to be rated with what kind of like score. I don't know what I'm talking about here, and why. It should be the crowd itself, and this is where the reputation angle starts breaking down, because what humans believe to be good and valuable is, it depends on individual to individual. You know, like there's so many different variables here with regards to like, are we thinking more short term or long term? Like how are we basing, how do we base our, how is the moral code, like how do you derive your moral code? Does it come from a specific place, or like more of like a first principles kind of take on it? Or just like what would you like to see more of? Is it like, and from like an entrepreneurial perspective, is it like more of a, what I think, actually, I don't know where I got this from, but is it more like a missionary take with entrepreneurship, or mercenary take, or somewhere in the middle? So there's like all these variables with regards to how something like this could be architected. I don't know what a good model is. But yeah, like this one idea that I thought of. It doesn't have to be this way, but I think in order to enable global cooperation, which I think is very crucial at this point in time, because I just don't see this, the trend that has emerged in the past couple of years. This is going to go in a different direction, like maybe along the lines of political realities. I don't see this as being sustainable, whereby like the whole kind of nation state model is taking more of a prominence, and it seems like a portion of humans are tying more of their identity with nation state models, and it's a single planet. The borders are there has been a historical need for borders in a historical context, but I see a lot of that going away with some of the trends I mentioned, with the transition to a cleaner energy environment, further evolutions in the area of finance in general, and fintech as a subset of that. There's like a lot of other variables whereby people are going to be connected all over the world. There's going to be internet coming from space. There's like the zero marginal cost society. There's like the cost of producing things is plummeting to almost zero. So soon there are going to be rockets printed, which are just going to take humans into orbit for, I don't know, like the price is going to plummet considerably, and there's going to be colonies all over. There's going to be settlements and outposts all over the solar system. There's going to be enormous wealth is going to be generated because technology is going to be applied to turn whatever exists into wealth. Hopefully not nature and ecology and like stuff that's taken billions of years to evolve in terms of the rainforests and the other marine ecology and whatnot. It's like if you lose that, then it seems like I don't even know I don't know much about computational biology and evolution to be able to expand on that, but it seems like a very complex problem to work through. Like if the oceans die, or like a core part of the ecology dies, like in my mind, at least from an uneducated perspective, it just seems very, very difficult to, if not impossible to revive something like that. So that's off on a topic, but yeah, like I'm like Venus, like there's like a lot of resources in the near Earth objects, the asteroid belt, the 2 planets that we have in the local cluster in the solar system, Mars and Venus. Maybe Mercury seems like a complex problem, but if we have materials that can actually operate in those kind of environments, and we have semi-autonomous or autonomous robots that can operate in these hostile environments, then Mercury is a potentially habitable real estate as well. The Venus is definitely, in my like the way I see it, is definitely habitable, and I think it's going to be either way. So like the we will either get better at sequestering greenhouse gases at Venus and apply the same techniques in a sustainable fashion on Earth, or we're going to do that on Earth first and apply to Venus, or we're going to run both in parallel. But yeah, so anyways, like going in a couple of different directions, but the core idea is like pretty simple. It's low cost. The thing is the physical and mental and safety and security of the inhabitants within these cities, as well whether individuals are going to be happy calling this place their home. It remains to be seen whether this model is going to work. It's a thought experiment right now. I hope something like this does become an experiment, because we have a lot of land on this planet where something like this could take roots, or sorry, could just you could have like the emergence of these cities. I think all these interactions that happen within this city should, by and large, be transparent. Because if we have the same mindset that has historically powered, like innovation in how it's been powered without this element of global cooperation, then there remains the chance that we're going to end up making the same mistakes. The important question is, as you attract hopefully a portion of the best and the brightest to these collaborative nodes, I don't have a word for it yet. There's the question of IP rights, and I haven't given that a fair bit of thought. But I mean, we could borrow something from like what we've learned in the domain of technology transfer. My uneducated feeling on this subject is that from a North American perspective, it may have been relatively easier to get going on the technology transfer end if you go back to the days of Frederick Terman. So we're talking let's think like the 50s and the 60s, mostly 40s going into the 60s and beyond, actually, because it's like 50s to maybe all the way to the 70s and going into the 80s. So it seems like technology transfer is more like a fluid kind of I think I heard Terman say something like it would take maybe 24 hours from the time somebody signed a technology transfer document to the time the license was granted. I don't know what the state of actual technology transfer is today. It depends on, I guess it depends on a case by case, but also a technology by technology basis, because it would probably be progressively difficult, I'm thinking, to get some kind of a technology transfer license, if it exists, for something in the domains of biotech, versus maybe if you have a new way of interacting with the machines or computers, that may not be as trivial or difficult. So yeah, maybe there's a technology transfer angle to how something like this could take effect in the nodes. Anyways, this is my thoughts. This is my thought on what I thinking of these nodes that could emerge all over the world. It doesn't have to be nodes that are manufactured. There's a COVID angle to this as well. So I don't know what's going to happen with COVID and I have no idea what the fall, winter is going to bring, and how the public is going to react to it, how society is going to react to it, how the problems are going to be defined, and how solutions are going to be implemented. So there's clearly a cause and effect series of relationships that will determine what reality is going to look like in 2021 and onwards. It could be that a lot of real estate that is just like vacant, and specifically in a commercial sense. There's a question mark over the vibrancy and dynamism, or like just the way cities function, because cities have attracted a lot of people historically. There's been a lot of growth. There's been like immigration that's been happening over decades, if not like more than a century, maybe, from rural areas to urban areas, and city as the hub of all the activity, not just business, but cultural, scientific, philosophical, so on and so forth, artistic. So yeah, there's a question mark over like how will humans respond to this challenge. So yeah, there's not a COVID specific conversation. My take on this right now, I may have a different take 2 weeks from now, depending on what kind of information, like how I think of this. But I think this is definitely preparing us for the next big potential pandemic as well. The big thing that humans should do is take biosecurity seriously. The biosecurity set of activities should be taken super seriously, because that's like one thing humans, I don't think, should not get right. What I'm saying is humans should get that right, because yeah, I don't want to come from like a place like I'm very hopeful and optimistic about the future, but I think like it's, amongst other things, there's like a lot of things are going on right now. Well, you could say the same thing about AI. You could say the same thing about, or steps to AGI, which I made a video about AI safety. You could say the same thing about nanotechnology. You could say the same thing about outer space treaties, because I don't think we should put weapons in space and end up making the same kind of mistakes we were making on Earth. You know, it hurts people in the long run. It hurts me. It probably hurts anyone who's watching this. A lot of other people. We're like, we all need a primary set of resources in order to be able to sustain our needs in a Maslow's hierarchy of sense kind of model. And we have a solid chance of creating a reality whereby things get progressively better now and in the future. And I would think that global cooperation is necessary for something like that to happen. So yeah, like I think like what I'm saying is that there's a cluster of very serious issues and problems, and I don't think there's going to be one person, one group, one nation, or an AI at that is going to solve these problems for humans. Humans are going to solve these problems together, and whether you have like a cooperation / co-opetition or competitive based model, you could try a lot of different strategies, but yeah, I think I've said enough on this topic. So I guess my point was like, we're gonna like, there's a solid chance of creating a very amazing, awesome reality in the near future, but it's not gonna happen by itself. It's gonna require a lot of work, and it's gonna require a lot of work across the board, and perhaps like a directed set of activities in core pivotal areas. So like the metaphor I think of in my mind is, you have a blacksmith, and the blacksmith is fashioning something that seems is like really like, it's like physically a hard substance, but you know, in the right conditions, you can mold that substance, and then you hit it repeatedly so that in the right way, in the right order. So it's not just force, but it's also finesse and nuance matters. And it's more like an art. But if you kind of take that metaphor, then you kind of need like a broad-based set of activities. So that would be like a lot of farmers, planting the seeds, which in this case, in like an innovation sense, we're like planting the seeds for not just ourselves, but future generations. And the set of activities we do right now, it should just not be in a reactive sense, but it should also be like, what are the kind of seeds we want to plant for the future, and for my daughter's generation and like the kids in the future, like what are the seeds we want to plant for the future generation. So you would have like a broad-based set of activities, but you'd also need some like the metaphor I used. So that would be activities targeted in a specific like narrower domain, like whether it's like AI safety or some of the other examples I mentioned, or like how to best leverage these coming cycles of abundance and use it for our good, for creating more healing. This comes from John Marlowe. It's fantastic summation. John Marlowe from LA. I hope we find the cure for John's condition. John has the way I understand is his body doesn't produce lipids, so he is not able to put on weight like people like myself and like anyone who, like most of us are able to convert. Our bodies are able to convert food into glucose, and it gets delivered to the cells, and like it either gets converted to protein or lipids, and the making like the lipids go on to produce, I guess, fat, and that's very necessary for the proper functioning of the body and the mind. Marlowe's a sharp guy. He knows a ton about genetics and synthetic biology and a whole bunch of other areas, but his condition is not diagnosed, so that it's in the domain of rare diseases. But anyway, so Marlowe once said that what we need on this planet is more hope, healing, and he also put pleasure. So I like there's a hedonic set point side to it in an ethical sense. And I'm like totally down with that vision. We definitely need more hope, healing. I kind of categorize it as wonder/pleasure. But like, there's so many people on this planet that are sick in the body or maybe in the mind. So like, there's a mental health angle to this, and I think we should leverage the coming cycles of abundance to enable more hope, healing, and wonder, and build more. There's like, I'm like split on certain enablement of institutions, like stuff like traditional educational system. I'm not a big fan of. So it seems kind of like stupid to keep plopping like schools the way we've done that in the past. But I'm totally for, like, that's a different domain. Like I don't want, like, I want to be engaged on that conversation. I'm not saying just replace that. I'm just saying there should be like an alternative education system that is maybe also state supported or not. I don't know how it's going to work out. But you try a different design, because Khan Academy is pretty good for people and kids to take the agency over their own well-being. But the question is, how many people will actually do that if there is no structure? So, like, we can't just create an experiment whereby millions of people or kids that are going through such an experiment. It's like putting a question mark over what the long-term repercussions of something like that are going to be. But that being said, I totally think that there should be more hospitals and healthcare facilities all over the world, as well as places which I perceive or imagine in 10, 15 years of a time. I don't know how long it's going to be, depends on how certain technologies are developed. But, well, from a physiological perspective, this is going a little off topic. From a physiological perspective, there's still a lot of parts of the world where things like Medicare doesn't exist, or just primary healthcare, forget about like cancer screening and like a whole bunch of other things. Just stuff related to primary healthcare doesn't exist. So a lot of the work is still dark on that front. And in the domain of mental health, I would say like a lot more of the world is dark. I wouldn't be surprised if mental health, the way it's being accessible for me, is something that may not be accessible to 90% of the world. So it puts a question mark over what's like really going on in the planet, and maybe it helps. I don't want to be like I don't want to pass judgment, but maybe it helps explain a lot of the problems that emerge in the world. And yeah, but yeah, like I totally think we should enable more more civic institutions whereby people can. Oh, I was going to talk about like, so I can totally anticipate 15 years or 20 years max in the future whereby we're going to be able to walk into a facility and, you know, there's like we have the same kind of visuals into how the mind is operating and how it's impacting behavior and, you know, like cognition overall, with regards to like how certain memories are playing out, or maybe some things in the environment, or there's like this memory from way back or something like that. So I think as the scanning and some of the other technologies get better over the period of time, I think we're going to have the same kind of visibility into how the mind structures. And a lot of it seems to be like this black box this kind of like box where like we don't like really know how thinking works. But I could foresee a lot of those areas getting demystified, and as it becomes more demystified, is like, you know, all this time has passed by with regards to us knowing more about our physiology. Like, because if you go back to like 1,000 years, we didn't have things like microscopes and whatnot. So, you know, because so many inventions have been brought atop something like a microscope, like microbiology, or just like that our body's actually made out of cells, and, you know, this is how the cells function. And then you have like electron microscopy, which took it to another level, and we were able to like actually peer into the mechanism of a lot of these systems in more detail. So maybe you don't like need a microscope for the mind. I don't like it, or like, you know, like Da Vinci had these designs for these flying machines, and he was right. He had the right intuition, but the thing that was missing was like an engine that was going to be embedded in those designs to make it really go. And sometimes humans have the right intuition, but like there's a core critical piece that is missing. So I guess I'm not trying to sound out that, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of good ideas floating into the construct. Maybe they're all missing that core component, like that engine that's going to make it go. And I truly believe this will be possible in the future. I don't know what the next couple of years are going to bring. For me personally, I just try to like change myself. I think if I do that, that's enough. There's a gentleman, forget his name. He does the rock climbing. He's from the, I think the Utah region. Alex Honnold. Wow, okay, I actually remember that. Alex Honnold. I'm not a rock climber, but he's got a good quote. You know, like that guy is like, that guy's living the life. Like he just wants to climb rocks, and that's it. Like, so he structured his life around doing that. But one of the things he said in one of his videos is, I just want to leave this planet in a neutral state. And I thought that was a pretty profound statement, because he's not like, I'm going to change the world, or, you know, like I'm going to do all this. He's just like, I just want to leave the world in a neutral state. And he's living the reality that he wants to. So like he's through his actions, he lives that. So when he's going climbing somewhere and he's got like a wrapper, he wouldn't throw that. You know, if you're like thousands of feet in the air climbing a rock, or a banana peel that you're like, oh, it's biodegradable, I'm just going to toss it because I don't want to carry it in my backpack. But that guy actually, he does the right thing. So be like Alex Honnold. Don't listen to me. Be like Alex Honnold. Try to leave the world in a neutral state and share ideas. I think that's a good segue to end this video. I make these videos accessible to children. So when you do that on YouTube, you can comment. So it's like a trade-off. But if if there's something in my content that sounds interesting, you can actually send me an email, and it's not hard to figure out what my email address is. I wish people would send me emails about the content I make. All right, guys, have a good one.